Hey Flannel friends, welcome back. My name is Brian and I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to talk about 5 books that I think are essential when you're starting off your homestead. We're going to have a few more than 5, but there's a basic list of 5. This is for modern homesteading. This is not for what should you have in your bug out bag if the apocalypse happens. These are ways to help us relearn some of those older ways of doing things. I have 5 books for you, a couple bonus books, and then I do have a few apocalyptic books that I have that I think are interesting that we'll share with you. What you won't notice is a bunch of gardening books, and the reason for that is because where you are depends on what books you should buy in terms of gardening. So my brother, David the Good, who has written a boatload of books about gardening that I have enjoyed very much and are on my shelf, are not necessarily relevant to the Virginia area where I live. If you're down south, in terms of gardening, I highly recommend you look up my brother David the Good's books. So that said, there's not a lot of gardening books. We're going to do these in order from least important, if you will, or maybe the least useful, to the most useful. And then we will share with you some extra bonuses and then a few of the apocalyptic books. Next. Oh, and all these books, they're in the description below. Something I forgot to mention, if you're going to purchase these books, please do not purchase the Kindle version. Purchase the actual paperback or hardback edition that you can put on your shelf. As we discovered just a few years ago, the powers that be can dictate what information we can find and what we can't on the internet. So I think it is crucial that you have books in paper form on your shelf. You never know when either A, the internet might go away forever, or B, they might decide that that's information you don't need anymore, and when you type in a search result, you don't get what you want, you get what they want. Just something to keep in mind. So we're going to start off with an honorable mention. Quality Pasture by Allan Nation. Why is this an honorable mention? Well, first of all, I love this book. Quality Pasture, How to Create It, Manage It, and Profit From It will show you how to restore your pasture land for the good of your animals. The reason it's an honorable mention instead of number 5 is because not everybody who homesteads is going to have cows in large quantities or need pasture to the extent that this book helps you get it. Sheep and cows primarily are what use pasture. Now yes, there is pasture-raised chickens and pasture-raised porks, but that's not as traditional as raising those animals closer to your property, in woods, things like that. But I absolutely love this book, and it has helped us absolutely transform these front few acres from over-farmed and overused land into just beautiful, lush pasture. Second book, The Family Garden Plan. Grow a year's worth of food for your family by Melissa K. Norris. And I'm sure a lot of you who are into the homesteading circles have heard of Melissa. She's part of the Pioneering Today podcast. This book, I know we said we weren't going to do gardening books, but this is less about what exactly you should grow, and it's more about the quantities of things that you need to grow. So we have used this book in our determination of what size plots we should make, how much area you need, preservation, those kind of things. The Family Garden Plan, indispensable book. Number 4, we're going to lump 2 together, but if you can only get one, get Butchering by Adam Danforth. Quality meat from poultry, rabbits, sheep, goats, and pigs. So if you're just starting out, he covers all those topics in this one. He also has another separate book on beef, which one of you purchased for me, and I'm grateful. I'm working my way through that right now. This has the comprehensive guide. Pigs or something else. Hey! It is full of photos from everything from dispatching the animal humanely to processing it all the way down and putting it in your freezer. Making the best of the basics. Family Preparedness Handbook, James Stevens. Now, one of the things I love about this book is you don't have to be a homesteader to use it. This helps you be prepared for essentially any emergency wherever you live, city, country, apartment, land, it doesn't matter. What it does is it gives you a breakdown all the way into where you can get these items, how many calories you need at what age, And this is great because if something happens to you, you lose your job, you get injured, whatever, if you have used this book, you will potentially have up to a year's worth of food and everything else that you need to survive that year already stored. Fantastic book, making the best of the basics. All right, everybody. Number 2, the Encyclopedia of Country Living by Carla, Emery. This book, just to give you a brief synopsis off the back. Now there's a list of things that it tells you how to do. Live off the land, build a cabin, milk goats, create homemade furniture polish, build a straw stack, make green manure, harvest wood, bake your own bread, use medicinal plants, raise chickens, etc. For those of us old fogies who remember what an encyclopedia was, it basically contained the vast majority of human knowledge condensed down into very small bite-sized chunks. And that's what this has. You can see the tabs, and garden vegetables, and herbs and flavor, tree, vine, and bush, food preservation, introduction to animals, poultry, goats, cows, and home dairying, bee, rabbit, sheep, pig. It's in here. All of that is in here. Preserving food, canning, animal husbandry. Now, the thing I love a lot about this book is not only is that stuff in here, in a brief synopsis where you could probably figure it out from just this, in each section it also has a bunch of books where they got a bunch of their information. So you could turn this book into like 150 books if you really wanted to dive down deep into some of those topics. But if you just want a brief overview of, oh my gosh, I don't know how to can something, it's in here. I don't know how to salt something, it's in here. I want to build a cabin, it's in here. All that stuff is in here. Number 2, most important book everybody should have. Okay, number 1, most important book for anybody really, homesteader or otherwise, is the Holy Scriptures. Now, before you go, why in the world would you need that for homesteading? The vast majority of the Old Testament was written to an agrarian society. And a lot of things in there are actually very, very matter of fact and good for the way that we live our lives in terms of how we treat animals and how we treat our land, letting it lie fallow every 7 years, not moving the old markers. As you get into homesteading and as you get into scriptures, you'll start to see a lot more parallels that you didn't see before. Homesteading is wonderful. One of the reasons we homestead, though, is because what we learned in Scripture. We have been given dominion over nature. How are we taking care of nature, of our animals, of the property that we own? Is there a biblical way to do that? There is. And I don't necessarily think the way that we are producing food in modern times is being proper stewards of the land. I don't know how else necessarily we do it on a big scale, so I'm not dissing anybody. I'm just saying for me and my house, we've decided to try and bring that down and get closer to our food. And taking care of the gifts that God has given you will show God that you love Him. Homesteading might save your life. If everything collapses and you have built a sustainable homestead, you could live off the land and be sustained. But what's in here will save your soul, and that lasts for eternity. Now, that said, I want to show you a couple other books that we use because of our region, and then a couple of the, if the apocalypse actually happened, what books I like. Here's what's left of our garden from this year. Shh, I'm filming. And it has gotten away from us a little bit, but as you guys know, we had heart surgery just over 3 weeks ago, so some of the things just had to be let go, and that's okay. But a book you really want, if you're in Virginia, is Grow Great Vegetables in Virginia by Wallace. My wife was a very accomplished gardener in Florida and in Georgia, but when we moved several states away to Virginia, things are different. So having a book that helps you in your region is critical. It'll help you understand your weather patterns, when you can plant things, what you should plant, what companion plants go together. It's very difficult to make a gardening video that applies because I have people that watch in New Zealand. I don't know what they have access to. So it's a completely different thing, but having a book specific to your climate or zone is clutch. Grow Great Virginia Vegetables, Wallace. All right, a couple of good end of the world books. Richard Graves, the 10 Bushcraft books. This is a guy back in World War II who had to figure out for downed pilot, people who were fighting in the Pacific region, how to build shelters, some basic things like that. And he came up with a really cool set of books, or a series of books that you can buy in one book, which is the 10 Bushcraft books. And this will show you how to build shelter, fire, super primitive type Stone Age stuff. It's a very good book. The Complete Encyclopedia of Natural Healing by Dr. Gary Null. If everything comes to a standstill and supply lines collapse and things like that, you're going to want to know what works. And this has proven remedies from nature that work. And really the only difference between pharmaceutical medication and natural medication typically is the concentration levels. They have sucked a lot of those things out of the plants and boosted them. And they're not typically made naturally, but they figured out what chemicals do what, and they concentrate them down. So this will help you if we don't have access to modern medicine. And in some cases, it'll help you even if you do. And my favorite final book for the end of the world, which I have yet to build one, but it is the Wood Gasifier Builder's Bible. This gives you step-by-step on how to make a wood gasifier. And it is 2 books in one. Book 1 was the wood gasifier plans, and book 2 was engine conversion. And this guy, Peterson, figured out how to build one basically in your backyard. And what you can do is take wood and water, and it separates the hydrogen out, and you can hook it up to a generator. And I think that's super cool. It's somewhat complicated. This is not like a 10-minute backyard build, but he gives step-by-step directions. So even if you are not terribly handy, if you buy the material list that this guy has and you follow the directions, it works. They actually used these extensively in World War I to run bases, forward observation posts, all kinds of things like that. They ran with wood gasifiers. And then when gasoline and propane and some of those other things got more prevalent, they dumped wood gasifiers because they're a bit finicky. But all you need is wood and water, and you can have power. So that's it. What I would like you guys to do, if you don't mind, is if you have books that you have found to be incredibly helpful, please put them in the comments below. In places like YouTube, we have what's called tribal knowledge. So these are things that I have found useful, but for the hundreds and hundreds of you that are gonna watch this video, there might be books that you have found incredibly helpful. So if you list those, we will all benefit from that. Some of these books I purchased based on your recommendations, and you were absolutely right. So thanks for joining me today. If you haven't already, please hit that like button. Even though my roosters are noisy, please subscribe to our channel, where we do our best to uplift you and give you good information. Keep growing as you grow. We'll see you next time. Bye.